Unlike other tutoring companies out there, our company has an SAT tutor take every single test that's administered. So these predictions today are based on facts, not feelings, because we're chasing the moving target here at Strategic Test Prep. So we specialize in taking students like you from the 1300s and 1400s into the 1500s. If you're interested in working with us, head to our website, strategictestprep.com, and you can book a consultation. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more free SAT content from me to help you achieve your SAT goals. All right, guys, let's get into the predictions for the June test based off of trends we've seen on the March and the May SAT. And by the way, this document is linked in the description. So if you want to download it and work alongside me, please feel free to do that. I would love for you to practice these problems as well to make sure that you've got it down. So let's start with this first one. When they talk about the amount of real solutions and you get a quadratic because your highest exponent is a 2, and they talk about, how many real solutions it has, immediately, I want you guys to think about the discriminant because that's probably what you're going to need to utilize, which is that portion of the quadratic formula under the square root b squared minus 4ac. Now, if there's no real solution, what that means is b squared minus 4ac is going to be less than 0 because if it's negative, it'll make an imaginary number. You can't square root a negative number. So now what we're going to do is we want to find the largest possible value of b. Well, let's take our values and put them into this. We don't know b, so we'll keep that as b squared. And then a is a -3 and c is a -27, okay? Now, it's just simple math. We're just going to make sure that we multiply the numbers together that we need to. So let me just quickly go to my Desmos calculator that you guys can't see. It's off screen, but you'll get the gist. You can do it right in Desmos or in your handheld calculator. And it looks like the product of those is -324. Okay. But we have to add it to the other side. So that means b squared is less than 324. And then we're going to square root both sides. Oh, I hope 324 is a perfect square. Let's find out. It sure is. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means b is less than 18. So they said b is an integer. That means it's a whole number. If it's less than 18, the largest it could be is 17. So 17 is going to be your answer. Keep an eye out for discriminant problems. They are trending like crazy right now. If they talk about 2 real solutions, your discriminant's positive. If they say there's 1 real solution, your discriminant equals 0. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go to my second prediction. Our tutor Jude took May. He said that all of his transition questions were like this. You're going to have a long transition phrase question. So what it's going to look like is you'll have a transition starting each answer choice, and then there will be a phrase after it, and each phrase is unique, okay? So the first thing I want you guys to understand with these is you're going to ignore the transition word completely, and what you're going to do is you're going to read the sentence after the blank because that is the context that we need to tie the unique phrase into. So when it says a physical prototype is subjected to months of flight testing, during which inspectors verified that the aircraft performs as the approved schematics promised, that sounds like a sentence that's talking about what they're doing next. They're starting to do flight testing. So if we have these ending phrases to segue into the next sentence, the process moves on to its next stage. Sounds really good because then they talk about what the next stage is. It's months of flight testing. So I would hold that one. Now the next one says the flight testing phase can be skipped. Okay, I want to get rid of that one because it doesn't sound like they skip it here. It sounds like they do something else. So B is out. C says no aircraft has ever failed the agency's paper evaluation. That's irrelevant to this. They're not talking about failing. And then it says the schematics must specify the aircraft's exact wingspan. Well, it doesn't go into talking about the wingspan either. None of B, C, and D is a correct segue into the next part. The best one is A because it's talking about how it moves on to the next stage, which is months of flight testing. So be ready for that. That's how you tackle those as quickly as possible. Please don't try to figure out what transition word is correct. You're just going to waste time doing that. You need to focus on the last sentence after the blank. All right, guys, if you are finding this video helpful so far, by the way, show me some love, hit the like button, and comment below 1600, because when you do these things, it helps the algorithm find other students just like you so they can also see this video. All right, let's go to prediction number 3. And hopefully you guys have your document up so you can do this with me. All right. So the next prediction, I think, is going to be a question on exponential growth or decay. They love these problems. And if you know what you're doing, they're actually pretty easy. So when we break this down, I just want to give you guys the structure to understand what is happening here. 58 is the initial amount. So that's whatever a function is starting with. 17, since it's less than 1, it's a decay. And we're losing 1 minus 0.17%, because 17% of 58 remains. So that means we're really losing 0.83%. That's the loss. So it's a decay rate of 83%. So when they say for any positive integer n, the value of f of n is p% less than the value of f of n minus 1, well, if we start with x and then we end up adding 1 to x, so we go to the next iteration, right? Like, don't worry too much, I guess, about the n and the n minus 1. I don't want you guys to get confused with that. All you need to understand is they're asking how much is lost. What would the next iteration be? How much less? And since you see a 0.17 in here, it's going to be 83% less. That's all you need to do. It's highly conceptual in nature. You just look at it, pick an answer. So if you understand how to read these should take you 10, 15 seconds. You get the right answer, you're moving on. And on module 2, when time is of the essence, a question like this is super valuable if you know what you're looking for. All right, let's move to the 4th prediction, non-essential clauses. You guys have to be careful here because sometimes they're going to mix up the non-essential clause. A non-essential clause is basically a phrase that could be between 2 dashes, or 2 commas, or 2 parentheses. And it's just really extra information that's not needed to complete the sentence or not needed for the sentence to make sense. Now, a lot of students get in trouble because they learn that if they see a dash, they should pick a dash. But that's not the case on this one. What I did was I chose a tricky grammar question that you could see on module 2, and I really want you guys to think this one through. So what I want you to do is just read the sentence with the blank in it. Let's start at the top. It says, the worms survived through a symbiotic relationship with chemosynthetic bacteria housed in a specialized organ called the trophosome, a structure that, due to its bacterial density, can convert toxic hydrogen sulfide into usable energy for the host. For me to explain this to you, I think the best way to do it is I'm going to use process of elimination. I'm going to go through every single answer choice, and I'm going to explain why certain answer choices are wrong. If we went with A, because the hyphen is here, there's 2 hyphens, that would make this whole part inside of the hyphen, or inside the dashes, sorry, it's not a hyphen, they're dashes, non-essential. So what that means is the sentence needs to make sense without it. So if I read this whole part that's highlighted without that stuff in the middle, it should make sense. Let's see if it does. The worms survive through a symbiotic relationship with chemosynthetic bacteria housed in a specialized organ called the trophosome. Convert toxic hydrogen sulfide. Wait, what? What converts toxic hydrogen sulfide? We're losing something here. So that doesn't make sense. The sentence it's not really complete there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of A. Okay. Now, for the same reason, I actually want to look at D next, because now it makes the can part of the non-essential. Oh, sorry, not the can. It makes the bacterial density part of the non-essential. So all this in between the 2 dashes would be non-essential. Let's read it again. So we have the worms survive through a symbiotic relationship with chemosynthetic bacteria housed in a specialized organ called the trophosome. can convert toxic energy sulfide. Okay, that sounds weird too. That's not really a complete sentence. What can convert toxic hydrogen sulfide? So we have to get rid of D. All right, now it's coming down to, do we need a comma or not? Okay, and so if I look at answer choice B, what's interesting is since there's a comma here, it says due to its bacterial density, comma, that means that the due to its bacterial density, because it's between two commas, would be the non-essential. So let's see if it works without it. We have the worms survive through a symbiotic relationship with chemosynthetic bacteria housed in a specialized organ called the trophosome, a structure that can convert toxic hydrogen sulfide into usable energy. That sounds amazing. So that's why we're going to go with B, because the non-essential was just this little phrase in between the two commas. It wasn't a bigger phrase in between the two dashes. Be very, very careful with that. All right, let's go to prediction 5. This we saw on March, this we saw on May. Margin of error has been trending, and these problem solving and data analysis questions get high flyers every time. The first thing I'll say about this type of question is please do not read this whole thing. This is designed to waste your time. What I want you to do on a question that looks like this, that's talking about margin of error, is just read the question. So it says, which of the following best explains why the first sample obtained a smaller margin of error than the second sample? Here's all you need to know. If it's a smaller margin of error, it's a bigger sample size. That's what the SAT tests. So if the first sample has a smaller margin of error, it contains more ovens. It had a bigger sample size. So that's why we're going to pick A. This is another question that if you know what you're looking for, you can get it right in 10 to 15 seconds on module 2, which is going to save you tons of time. So please look out for that. All right. Let's go to prediction 6. We've got a shifting transition with a subordinating conjunction. Just a heads up, guys, what the heck is a subordinating conjunction? I mean, that sounds so fancy, right? It's a word that's not a transition that can separate two independent clauses. It really makes a dependent clause. So the word while is one such word that's a subordinating conjunction because it makes a dependent clause, not a complete sentence. So if you see the word while here after the blank, chances are you're not going to want a semicolon or a period because it's a subordinating conjunction. So I'm already thinking I want to get rid of A and C. Now, if you want to know what some other subordinating conjunctions are so you can get ready for the test in case they throw another curveball at you, just Google it. What are subordinating conjunctions? It'll give you a whole list. Then you can be ready. Okay. Now, we can test this though. Let's pretend you didn't know it was a subordinating conjunction. How are you going to tackle these questions? Because there's a lot going on. I recommend doing these in 2 steps. The first step is to figure out what kind of punctuation you need. And then the second step is to figure out where to put the transition. Okay. So I need to figure out, do I have 2 complete sentences or not? So if I test it, what I'm going to do is read up. And by the way, I like to just get rid of the transition temporarily. So we're going to get rid of the for instance. And I just want to read up to 400 BCE. So we've got residents of the Persian plateau constructed yakchals, massive domed ice houses, as early as 400 BCE. That sounds like a complete sentence to me. I'm going to go ahead and mark that first side as a complete sentence. Let's read the second side. While lowland populations lacking access to winter ice harvest relied instead on salting and fermentation, what? Do you see how because it starts with a while, it almost makes that whole part this dependent modifier where we still don't know what they're about to tell us. We don't have a subject yet. So that is incomplete. So it's exactly what I was saying. Since it's a subordinate conjunction here, we don't want the semicolons. We're going to get rid of A and C. Okay. Now we just need to figure out if it's B or D. So what we can do is we can see if, because what we need to understand about the colon is the first side with a colon needs to be a complete sentence, and the second side can be anything. So it's okay that it's incomplete, but it needs to explain more. It needs to go into further detail about what that first side said. So let's see if it does that. Residents of the Persian Plateau constructed yakhchals, massive domed ice houses, as early as 400 BCE. Okay, if they went on here to describe more about the massive domed ice houses and how large they were, or they went into further detail about the yakhchals, then we are going to go with the colon. But do you see how they shifted gears and they started talking about something else, lowland populations? We don't want a colon here. It's not explaining more about what the first side said. So we're just going to go with B. All right. So shifting transitions take a little bit more time. Be ready for that, but just take it in 2 steps. What punctuation mark do you need first? Then, look for where to put the transition word. And look out for those subordinating conjunctions, because if you have a subordinating conjunction like while, chances are that second part is a dependent clause. If you have a full transition word like however, instead, if it said, however, lowland populations lacking access to winter ice harvest relied instead on salting and fermentation, now it's an independent clause because the subject is lowland populations. So just be ready. Like, is it a full transition word or is it just a subordinating conjunction? You need to be able to distinguish. All right, let's move on. By the way, guys, comment below. Let me know what your goal score is for this test. Like, what are you trying to get on the June SAT? Is this your last attempt? Is this your first attempt? Just, give me the nitty gritty. I want to hear where you're at. All right, here's the next prediction that I have for you. This has been trending as well. And it's getting a lot of high flyers because they're not noticing these things on the graph. So if you see these weird little squiggle lines here, let me zoom in so you guys can see this. If you see these weird little squiggle lines on the graph, it means there's a break in the graph. So the line looks like it's going to hit the y-axis at about like 100. No. Don't assume that because there's a break in the graph. See how it stops at 90? So this graph is going to keep going down way further than you think it is. So you can't eyeball it and you can't assume what the y-intercept is. So instead, what you're going to do, if they want to know what the equation is, you can take 2 points on the line and you can run a regression in Desmos. So let's see, what are 2 pretty decent points that we can use? Well, we can use, let's see, this one looks like it's like 185, 110, or 110, 185. So let me write that down. We've got 110, 185. And then let's use this one right here. We've got like 130, 220. Okay. So let me show you guys how this is going to work in Desmos. You can run a quick regression. So let's see. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type table, and that pops up the table, and I'm going to put in those values 110, 185, and then 130 and 220. And I'm going to hit this little thing. It will run an auto linear regression. And as you can see, the slope is 1.75x and it's minus 0.75. Now you have to keep in mind, we estimated the points. So, 1.75x minus 0.75, you're not going to see that exactly on the answer choices, but you have to pick the one that's closest. So let me actually show you guys both sides so that you can see everything. Okay. So, and I'll zoom in here so you can see what the equation was again. Okay. And I'll zoom into these. So what is the closest? Well, the 1.75 is a little off. They have 1.85 for the slopes. That's fine. But we need to find the closest y-intercept to negative 0.75. It's definitely not 148, 218, or 240. Negative 18.4 is the closest. So we're just going to go with A. So again, it's not going to be exact, but you'll be able to tell once you run the regression. The thing you don't want to do is just eyeball the graph and assume a y-intercept that's not really the y-intercept. So just keep an eye out for that. All right. Again, if you're really liking this video, make sure you subscribe. If this isn't your last SAT, I come out with free content every single week. And I'm really trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're at 85,000. I'm so grateful for all you guys out there. So if you've watched some of my videos and you appreciate what I'm doing for you, please show me some love and subscribe. It would really mean the world to me. All right, let's go to prediction number 8. And let me share my screen just a second, guys. So my next prediction is I think you're going to have a note-taking question where you need the notes. All right. Most people out there who are newer to the SAT, they learn a quick trick right away that says, hey, you ignore these notes and then you can just pick an answer. That's true most of the time. However, as of the last school year, these note-taking questions have gotten a little bit more tricky and a little bit more complicated, where you should expect 1 or 2 of them to require you to read the notes as well. So here's how you're going to do this. First, I still want you to skip these. Okay. That says skip. I don't know if you guys can read that, but you get the point. Skip it first and read what the student wants. So we've got the student wants to indicate the California red-legged frog's FWS classification category. I'm going to go through the answer choices and see which ones talk about the red-legged frog's classification category. So let's see what A says. It says species on the FWS list, which include the California red-legged frog, are classified as either endangered or threatened. Okay, we're talking about this and we're talking about this. Are they telling us what the California red-legged frog's FWS classification category is? Kind of. They're telling us it's this or this. I guess let's just keep it for right now. The California red-legged frog appears on the FWS list. Okay, that doesn't tell us the classification category at all, so we're going to get rid of that. C says, according to the FWS, the California red-legged frog is in the endangered category, in danger of extinction. Okay, so they definitely give us the red-legged frogs category. I'm going to keep that. Likely to soon become endangered, the California red-legged frog is classified as threatened. Okay. Now, I think we could cross off A, actually, because they're just talking generally about species on the FWS list and that they're classified as that or that. And we really want specific to the red-legged frog, but regardless, we've got 2 answer choices that tell us what the classification is, and they're different. So when you need a tiebreaker, that's when you go to the bullet points and you read the notes. So my recommendation is to look at the last 2 bullet points. That's usually the key that unlocks the information you need to answer the question. And it says a species that is likely to soon become endangered is classified as threatened. The California red-legged frog is likely to soon become endangered. So that means it's threatened based on the bullet point right before it. So we're going to pick D. It's classified as threatened. Okay. So one of the answer choices won't be true to the notes. The other will. Sometimes you need to do a tiebreaker with 3 answer choices. Just be prepared to go to the bullet points. All right, let's talk about my 9th prediction. I think you're going to have a conversion problem on this test. And I actually chose a really difficult one because we haven't seen this in a while, and I could see them doing this again. The reason why it's difficult is because they expect you to square time, and they don't give you the conversion for time. Let me show you what I mean. It says a rocket's acceleration is measured at a rate of 3.45 meters per second squared. Do you see how they're squaring seconds? That's interesting. This is in the second dimension, okay? So it says, what is this rate in kilometers per hour? We need it per hour squared. So what you need to do off to the side, because they'll never give you conversions for time, you need to create the conversion yourself. So we know that there's 60 seconds in 1 minute, okay? And then that means if we square that, there's 3,600 seconds squared in 1 minute squared. And then we know that there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, right? So if we square both sides of that, that means there's 3,600 minutes squared and 1 hour squared. So if we want to know how many seconds squared are in an hour squared, we need to do 3,600 times 3,600, which is going to be a huge number. But because it's in square units, that's just what happens. And I just want you guys to be aware of that. So let me go ahead and square 3,600 on my other screen. So there's 12,960,000 seconds squared and 1 hour squared. Wow. Okay, cool. Now let's go ahead and set everything up. So we've got 3.45 meters per 1 second squared, and we want to convert it to hours squared. So what I'm going to do, and we want to convert it to kilometers. So let's do kilometers first. I'm going to multiply, and since meters are on top, I want meters on the bottom. So meters cancels with meters. I'm going to put 1,000 meters on the bottom, and it's equal to 1 kilometer that goes on top. Okay, now I want to convert the second squared to hours squared. So I'm going to put second squared on top because it's on the bottom, so that they'll cancel with each other. And I'll put 1 hour squared on the bottom. Okay, so seconds cancel with seconds. So we're going to be left with kilometers over hours squared. And now we just multiply straight across. So I'm going to end up doing 3.45 times the 12 million something. And I get 44 million. Whew, that's a big number. 712,000. Okay, that's kilometers over 1,000 hours squared. Okay, now the zeros are going to cancel. So we end up with 44,712. Okay, that works. Don't panic if you get some big numbers. You've got 5 spaces to fill in your answer when there's no multiple choice. 44712, boom, you're done. It fits perfectly. If you end up with a 6-digit answer, question that, go back to the drawing board. You probably made a careless mistake. Last prediction. I think you're going to have a subject-verb agreement question on your test. I'm going to show you the right way to do it, and then I'm going to show you the quick trick so that you can save some time. The right way to do it is to recognize you have verb tenses as your answer choices, and go find the subject. So we have, though Bartholdi's appeals had modest reach. Okay, that whole part is a lead-in. We're going to get rid of that. It's just introducing the sentence. Right after a lead-in comes the subject. The contributions is the subject. Documented in newspaper publisher Joseph Pulitzer's 1885 World Ledgers. That's just more information describing the contributions. Such as all of that in between the 2 dashes is also extra information. It's a non-essential clause. So we need a verb to match the subject, the contributions. The contributions illustrate an impressive early model. We need the verb to be a plural tense verb. We wouldn't say the contributions illustrates or has illustrated. We also wouldn't use an ing here. We actually need a real verb. And so this is kind of a throwaway answer. Now, the quick trick is if you notice verb tenses and you see there's a variation. You can use he, they, it's called a pronoun trick, and test them and pick the one that's different. I say they illustrate, he illustrates, he has illustrated. I wouldn't say they or he. And since there's already illustrating, so that's a throwaway answer. And I'm going to pick the one that's different. So it's got to be B. So on module 2, that'll save you a little bit of time. So just be ready for that. Guys, I have a 2.5-hour advanced crash course coming up this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So if you like what you saw in this video and you want to dive deeper into more predictions, more trends, more tricky questions high flyers get wrong, more quick tips, tricks, and strategies, it's jam-packed for 2.5 hours. You just head to our website, strategictestprep.com/events. I'll link it up here. And, you can just register and grab a spot for that. Now, if you caught this video after Saturday, which is Saturday the 30th, I believe. Is it the 30th? Let me double check. You can always purchase the recording and the notes. Yep, it's Saturday, May 30th. So no worries if you missed it. The recording and notes will still be available all the way up to the June test. So you can always grab that after. Also, we are accepting new students for the summer. So if you're not feeling super confident headed into June and you know that you're going to need to work on this more over the summer, we have expert tutors on the team. Again, we specialize in getting students up over that 1,500 threshold, and we would love to work with you. Just head to our website and book a consultation. All right, guys, good luck on the test next weekend. Keep an eye out for my last minute tips video. That's coming next week. And until next time, happy prepping.